bid to legitimate continued military rule. Now for this hour, we start with the Middle East. The Israeli government has approved a deal to release all hostages held in Gaza, both living and deceased. The decision marking a historic moment in the two-year conflict between Israel and Hamas. Under the deal, the first phase will see the hostages released within 72 hours. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has stated that this deal could bring an end to the war in Gaza. Let's listen into what he has said in a recent interview.
If Hamas carries out its part of the agreement, is this the end of the war?
Well, it's the implementation of the first phase. We don't have any intention to renew the war, but parts of the commitment is, for example, the disarmament of Hamas, that they will lay down their arms and so on.
And that will be phase two.
We will first have a ceasefire. Immediately after the decision will be approved by the government, there will be a ceasefire. And then the commitment within 72 hours of Hamas to release all the hostages. I believe that
Meanwhile, the U.S. President Donald Trump has said that no one will be forced to leave Gaza under the peace plan. He has also stated the second phase will focus on disarmament, with Israel insisting that Hamas must surrender its weapons. The hostages held by Hamas are expected to be released on Monday or Tuesday. Here's what he has said.
We are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there. And we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing.
When does it begin?
I'm not going to talk about that because you sort of know what phase 2 is, but there will be disarming, there will be pullbacks, there will be a lot of things that are happening. You know, I gave you a whole list of 22 different things that will happen.
Now, the deal was signed by all parties in Egypt, and the ceasefire is expected to take effect within 24 hours. President Trump has confirmed he will attend a signing ceremony in Egypt, furthering his involvement in the peace process. Let's listen in.
We are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there. And we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing.
The agreement includes a plan to pull back Israeli forces, with U.S. military officials set to oversee the ceasefire's implementation. The final draft of the agreement was signed by all parties, but challenges remain, particularly concerning the disarmament of Hamas and the future political structure of Gaza. Let's listen into what Shosh Bedrosian, Israeli government spokeswoman, has said.
Now, the final draft of phase 1 was signed this morning in Egypt by all parties to release all of the hostages. And the IDF will then redeploy to that yellow line we mentioned, which will lead to the military controlling and holding about 53% of the Gaza Strip. Now, phase 1 stands very clear. All of our hostages, the living and deceased, will be released 72 hours later, which will bring us to Monday.
U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were present in Jerusalem, playing a pivotal role in securing the deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked the U.S. for securing this peace deal, marking a breakthrough in the Israel-Hamas war. Let's listen in.
Momentous development in the last 2 years. We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims. And a central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They worked tirelessly with Ron and his team, our team. And That and the courage of our soldiers to enter Gaza and the combined military and diplomatic pressure that isolated Hamas, I think, is part.
Now, for this discussion, we're joined by Dr. Albayt Nintujam. He's a Deputy Director and Assistant Professor, Symbiosis of School of International Studies, joins us live from Pune. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again. Professor, now, so far, what do we know? What are the main terms and conditions that have been agreed for this phase one of this deal?
Yeah, thank you once again for having me on the show. I think as we all have discussed and been hearing since last night, the first phase of this agreement would largely do with the exchange of hostage and prisoner swappings between the two sides. That remains one of the most sticking points ever since the conflict has begun. That has led to the death of thousands of Israelis and at the same time thousands of the Gazans on the other side. And we have seen the captives and the Israeli citizens being held as captives, hostages. So this would be very important, marker of the first phase of the agreement that the Israeli government has approved last night in India and local time in Israel. So if this gets through, this probably would lead to a few more breakthroughs and developments with regard to this long-standing conflict between the two sides. So the exchange of prisoners and the hostages in the next 72 hours, as per the agreement, that would remain one of the most important trajectory of the development.
And Professor, if you can also tell us what are the challenges that's remaining between this future of this Hamas and Gaza's peace deal?
Yeah. So first, of course, one of the most important challenges was the dynamic that you just mentioned. That is the that I also had explained, the exchange of prisoners and the hostages, the swapping mechanism that they have agreed to. The second one would be disarmament of Hamas inside Gaza Strip. How that is going to pan out or carry forward in the next phase of the plan remains to be seen. Again, we also have talked about the limited withdrawal of Israel from Gaza Strip. That will again, will take good amount of effort, political, diplomatic effort from both the sides. Whether Israelis will be willing to withdraw fully from Gaza Strip, or it's going to be that they will do it in batch by batch wise. So the next sticking point, or the problem rather, would be the disarmament of Hamas, complete disarmament, or the withdrawal of Israel from the Strip.
And lastly, Professor, now we know that many other countries, including US, Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, these countries were involved. How do you think these countries will be involved moving forward?
Yeah, this is again a very important, we all have seen again the reinforcement of the importance of US in the Middle Eastern politics. And they have been one of the major players, if you look at the history of Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and some of the important peace deals or accords have been signed under the aegis of the United States. 1993 Oslo Accord being one of the most important agreement. But you also have the involvement of regional players like Jordan, Qatar, of course, a very important country, and Egypt, again, another very important country that Israel signed its peace deal in 1979. So the involvement of these countries also reflect the continuing importance that they have played in trying to bring some sort of a stability in the region, particularly by giving a platform to Israel and some of the adversaries in the region. And in this case, we have Hamas. It's a very important development. And at the same time, it's a very critical involvement of these regional players that have their own interests, of course, and also the regional interests to ebb the tensions that have been growing in the region since October 2023. So their involvement is very, very significant.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ning Tujam, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. In Cairo, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is urging Israel to immediately de-escalate, warning that continued strikes in Gaza risk derailing a long-awaited ceasefire agreement. Sisi is also pressing for swift action, saying hostilities should stop even before the formal signing of the deal. Further, he has also renewed his invitation to U.S. President Donald Trump to attend a signing ceremony in Egypt, praising American, Qatari, and Turkish mediation efforts and calling the deal a vital step towards ending the war. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has warned that Israel's expanding settlements in the West Bank pose an existential threat to future Palestinian state, calling them a breach of international law. Speaking at a conference on Gaza's future, Macron also stressed the importance of Palestinian ownership in any post-war governance structure. Let's listen in.
Tous aujourd'hui, autour de cette table, nous sommes prêts à contribuer à soutenir le plan de paix américain. Il a besoin de nos retours honnêtes, de nos contributions concrètes dans chacune de ces dimensions: la gouvernance, la sécurité, l'aide humanitaire et la reconstruction. D'abord, l'établissement d'une gouvernance temporaire pour Gaza. Vous y avez beaucoup travaillé ces 2 dernières années. Sur ce point, nous ne devons pas perdre de vue la nécessité d'une appropriation palestinienne qui constitue la base de l'horizon politique rappelé par notre président Trump: autodétermination et création.
Meanwhile, Yemen's Houthi rebels have said that they will remain vigilant until the ceasefire is fully enforced, continuing to monitor the situation and threatening further action if the truce falters. In Dushanbe, Russian President Vladimir Putin has voiced support for President Trump's Gaza peace plan. Let's listen in.
Мы видим, что сейчас происходит. Вот достигнуто по информации из средств, из СМИ, окончательные решения. Мы очень надеемся на то, что эти инициативы президента США будут на самом деле на практике реализованы. Подчеркну, Россия всегда исходила и исходит из того, что решить проблемы ближневосточного региона можно лишь политико-дипломатическими средствами. И мы, естественно, готовы поддержать любые мирные усилия, направленные на то, чтобы остановить кровопролитие и принести спокойствие в этот регион.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with President Trump, calling the Gaza ceasefire a historic step towards peace. He also spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, reaffirming India's support for the US-led initiative to end this conflict. Now for this discussion, we go back to Dr. Ning Tujam. He's a Deputy Director and Assistant Professor at Symbiosis School of International Studies. Joins us live from Pune. Thank you very much, Dr. Professor, for staying with us. Now we have seen all the leaders across the world and their reactions pouring in. But while Israel and Gaza, they have signed a deal, the shelling still continues in Gaza. Why do you think Israel is still continuing to bomb Gaza, although they know that it risks their hostages' lives, and they know that they are coming back? So why do you think they're still continuing?
I didn't see this information. I don't have the latest information, but little that I saw early this morning was the efforts of the presence of IDF going back to other side of the territory. There was a little bit of a bombing until last evening. That was the time when the cabinet meeting was going on in Jerusalem. With regard to this continuing bombardment, I don't have any information in that regard. But I was aware, of course, of the bombing that was covered by some of the major news channels, including CNN and BBC, last evening about the bombardment inside the Gaza Strip, and they have come out with a statement saying that this is a part of their activity before the ceasefire came into effect. So I will not be able to comment much on that.
Thank you, Professor. However, and while other reactions poured in, also yesterday we covered one that was UNRWA's reaction. They've hailed the ceasefire as a huge relief, and then they have said that there are plans to restore essential infrastructure. Do you think that these efforts will lead to long-term stability for the aid access, or do you think that these could be temporary solution amidst a broader unresolved conflict for the aid to pass to Gazans safely?
Yeah, if we look at the the plan, I think it's too early to predict any longevity or absolute effectiveness of this peace plan. But it is very important that at least some sort of an agreement has been reached between the two sides. And one of the most, again, apart from the prisoner hostage swapping mechanism that they have agreed upon, there is also a fair deal of requirement to improve the humanitarian situation inside Gaza Strip. And as a result of this ceasefire, there will be a lot more movements, I believe, of aid going into Gaza Strip to cater to some of the very, very severe problems pertaining to health and the food crisis or any other form of crisis which we are seeing inside the Gaza Strip. So for now, it is a very important breakthrough that would allow a good amount of movement of the aid carriers inside the Strip. That in itself would be a big takeaway from this agreement. But how, again, the implementation of this deal in the first phase is very, very important. So if this gets through, then they'll move on to the second phase and the third phase as per the planning. So again, I mentioned this position in my earlier discussion with your news channel also, that it is too hard to predict what's going to happen in Middle East, particularly with this kind of development that we have been seeing for the last 2 years. But it now depends on Israel and Hamas, with a little bit of a help that they are getting from US and some of the regional players to ensure that there is a streamlined process of meeting this peace plan, and also how they start rebuilding the Strip from the damage that has been caused by this conflict for the last 2 years.
Yes, indeed. And we will be eyeing and updating you on all of the